We're jam-packed with things that impact your life each and every day. That's what the news is about today. First, we're going to talk about the biometrics, what Chinese system is and what we're looking to go to. I'm going to show you a video of how people enter and exit their buildings, how they access internet, how they access their trash compactors. Every aspect of their life is through biometrics. That's exactly what we're seeing with Real ID and Digital ID, and that is from both Republicans and Democrats, because there's usually one control element and both parties are a part of it. We're going to discuss that. Secondly, we're going to talk about there's bank records showing how Lindsey Graham is beating the system and how the reason he pushes for certain wars and certain things is because the kickbacks of money he gets. A CIA analyst just blew the water off this. But see, here's the thing. Everybody's like, why don't they arrest him? Why don't they get him in trouble? Because to be honest with you, I imagine 90% of all Congress and Senate are doing the exact same thing. You may have 4 or 5 that's not. But ultimately, it's a big swamp and they're all playing in it. It just happens to expose 1 or 2 of them, but ultimately they're all doing it. We're going to discuss that story and how crazy it is. We're also going to talk about how Digital ID and how we're looking at the impacts of AI. Our military just signed a huge agreement with XAI. This is also on top of our government signing big contracts with AI. Both, again, it has nothing to do with Republicans or Democrats. It has to do with the fact of the new life that we're fixing to live is going to be completely surveilled. We're going to discuss what this means and how this tech is given to all military personnel, all of our leaders, and so therefore, what will people know about just the common Main Street American? We're also going to discuss what Hunter Biden said. Again, it's amazing how a troubled kid all of a sudden starts spilling the beans. We're going to discuss what he said about the Democrat Party, what he said about Joe Biden, his father, and what he says about the country. Not that we should take his word for it, but when he speaks, I want you to listen to what he is saying because it'll blow your mind. And then lastly, we're going to talk about the push for health. I'm telling you all the time to walk, exercise, do a little calisthenics, eat healthier. We need to get our bodies back right to make sure that we're fighting for our health. We are a temple of God, remember that. But everybody looks for the easy button, the GOP wants. We're going to listen to a story that's coming out of Australia right now because they pushed this on their people a lot faster than we did. And guess what? Now people are seeing unbelievable side effects. We're going to discuss that and why we need to be very conscientious and very careful of when we say, this was dangerous, we can't do this back in 2020, and now we're willing to stick ourselves everywhere else with other things. Mind-blowing. Pay attention. What is health? What is good for us? And what is not? Let's dive in. Hey guys, welcome to our channel. Thank you so very much for being here today. If you are new, please go down here, press subscribe. It means the world to us. Also, we do a giveaway each and every month for our subscribers. We actually had the 300,000 giveaway. It was on back order, so that actually goes out this week. We thought it went out last week. It didn't. So we're going to be sending that out this week. But remember, when you subscribe to the channel and you give us thumbs up, comment, and you follow us on Facebook or X, Twitter, any of those sites, if you follow us, you're entered into the giveaway. The more that you comment, the more that you give us thumbs up, you're put into the random drawing and you actually have more chances. Again, thank you so much for being here and we're so humbled by your support. Now, let's jump into the stories of the day. First, let's talk about the situation with this biometric situation in China. I want you to listen to this. This is in China, citizens require biometric digital IDs to verify facial recognition cameras to leave and enter their neighborhood zones. Also, this helps them understand when you're shopping what you're buying. This also allows for you to get social credit scores if you're not throwing things away correctly. All the things that you do is done with biometrics. Now, I want you to think just for a second. I told you last week my phone updated, and it's one of those software updates where every day it's prompting me, and several times a day, to be honest with you, to put my finger scan in, to do my facial recognition, and I just decline it. It's to a point where my phone probably will stop working one day because they're wanting that. Apple wants that. Other platforms want that. Meta wants that. So what we're seeing is the ramifications of this new digital ID, Real ID, that the government of both parties is pushing to be in utter full control. You don't believe me? Watch this video of this girl trying to get out in China. Now, what this does is all of a sudden, if you don't do the things that the government requires you to do, and your biometrics are getting scanned for the things you're buying, for the things you're not paying, for the fact that you jaywalked, the fact that you did trash different, they'll start taking your rights away. All because of them scanning and knowing where you are at all times and what you're doing at all times. Do we not see this happening with crypto wallets? Do we not see this happening with our bank accounts? Look, my mom and dad have a credit card that they use for Christmas. It's only for Christmas. They don't shop on it and put debt on it, but what they do is they buy their Christmas on it and then pretty much pay it off at the end of December. That's just how it always has worked, because grandchildren and all them, they don't know what all the kids want, so all us kids order for the grandchildren, and it just makes it easy. But she couldn't do that this year because they wanted facial recognition, they wanted a finger scan, and they wanted her to scan her driver's license and verify all this extra information that she never has to do for the last 5 years. You see, it's slowly and methodically, but it's getting all your information. Every aspect of your life is going to be completely surveilled over. Watch this video. Now, going along with that, listen to this. This is new, just yesterday. It says, Pentagon signs agreement with XAI to deploy Grok across 3 million military and civilian personnel. The War Department officially entered into an agreement with XAI to help with AI platforming of all military personnel. Also, by 2026, all 3 million military and civilian personnel will have access to the Grok family of models, impacting levels of better workflow, but controlled, unclassified information in daily workflows, to where XAI will have information to make life easier for these people. The kicker, users will also gain access to real-time global insights from the X platform, giving War Department personnel the announcements call for decisive information advantage, meaning XAI and AI in general is getting information from all over their platforms, everyone else using this, and then giving it to the military so they can make better, decisive steps in what their future is, and what they're making, their decisions based on is all of what America is talking about. Meta did this last week, December 16th. We talked about this, where it took all your information, unless you opted out, and started putting it all in their AI platform, so therefore anyone and everyone that is buying into their program knows anything and everything about you. This goes along with the Real ID, Digital ID, and fully surveilled system that the government is wanting us to be under. Do you not realize that? It's unbelievable to me. There is a new app that you can download. It's called Parody something, and again, I'm not trying to beef it up, but you can usually take someone's real face, someone's like celebrity face, put their voice with it, and say anything you want it to say, and send it to your friend as a joke, like making fun of them and acting like, Conor McGregor, called him out. Donald Trump called him out. J.D. Vance called him out. Ben Shapiro, Tucker Carlson, whomever you want to use. It uses celebrity faces and their voices and says a personalized message to whomever you want to send it to. You see how dangerous it is. It's getting to the point where you will not be able to trust your own ears, your own eyes, and also your own technology and your own personal information, because you don't know if it's been compromised or not. It is absolutely unbelievable that we're to this point. Now, do I blame the Trump administration? No, I blame government as a whole. I blame the fact that really what it comes down to is our technology has grown so much, and you have so many people such as the Sam Altmans, where they have like this God complex, and Bill Gates, where they want to build this future where they have full control. You've met people like that, where they believe that they have to be in full control. If it may be a boss or it may be a leader of some sort, they have to have control over people. And that's exactly what we're coming to when it comes to the dangers of technology and AI. Now, this is where I push back and say, well, why can we not find people to stand up against this, to keep our freedoms and our liberties completely our freedoms and our liberties? Well, that kind of brings me to the next few stories. The reason we don't have good representation in Washington or with our leaders or our politicians is because they're so tied to building their self up, their selfish ambitions, than actually caring for the American people. Now, we've heard these stories all the time, and I feel like I'm beating a dead horse when I talk about Congress and Senate. But if we don't wake up to the fact that both of these parties, R&Ds, are taking advantage of the American people, then you have another thing coming, and I'm sorry, your head has been in the sand way too long. Prime example, let's go to this story with Lindsey Graham. And again, I'm not just picking on Lindsey Graham. This is 90% of all Congress and Senate. It says, bank account records show that Lindsey Graham is laundering money from the Ukraine war back to his personal bank account. CIA officer says that significant amounts of money has been laundered back to Lindsey Graham. Let me say something about Lindsey Graham. There will be news coming out in the next couple of months that shows that he has profited financially and has laundered money from this situation. Of course, CIA officer was former CIA officer Larry Johnson. Now, here's the thing. These are allegations, I know. But there's been tons of allegations about Chuck Schumer, Mitch McConnell, about John Thune, about all these other congressmen and senators that are getting filthy rich off this. Who's the biggest partner of building back Ukraine from this war situation? BlackRock. So there's so many laundering situations coming from this. So when I go back to the first point of saying, well, why can't we find people that wants to worry about our freedom and liberty and get away from all this, their surveillance? Because they're not worried about us. And to be honest with you, as much and ties and darkness and evil and blackmailing that's probably going on in Washington, the last thing what they want to do is stand up for this little American who is one vote when they have this big behemoth of BlackRock and asset managers or other politicians that know these dirty, dark secrets, or this whole group of people that are making millions off things like the war. What you're actually seeing is just the signs of evil in a swamp that cannot be drained. I know we hear that Trump wants to drain the swamp. I know we see people that say they're going to Washington to fix it. I don't think you'll ever fix the problem. You can't fix the problem because it's too big. Now, I said Lindsey Graham here, but there is so many other politicians that's dipping into some form of lobbying money or some form of insider trade. Look at, Nancy Pelosi has the best trade record of anyone in the world and has had it for years upon years upon years. Do we think she's just that good of a stock trader when she's half drunk every time you see her? No. It's because she has that information. Dan Crenshaw, another one. All these people. You can say alleged, of course, but you can't tell me these people can get this filthy rich in just a few years. It's impossible. People who build businesses. I own a business. I've built a business up. I'm very proud of my business and I take great pride in it. But I didn't become a filthy millionaire over 2 or 3 months or 2 or 3 years. It took me time to build up, and I'm nowhere near any of these people's wealth. I have to work every day to build my business up. And all of a sudden, they can make it off the taxpayer dollar to all of a sudden become this wealthy investor and have these millions of dollars in the bank. You wonder why they're not worried about our freedom and the surveillance issues, the cash problems, all the things that we want in Main Street is because they're getting absolutely filthy rich. And the sad thing is because they've took something or done something, there's probably blackmail on them to a point where they can't do anything but back the system that's made them. That is the truth. And sadly, we're seeing that. Let's go to this Hunter Biden situation because this kind of says it, again, the quiet part's out loud. Let's go to what he stated. Hunter Biden stunned the entire Democrat Party by denouncing his own father's 4 years in office. This comes after an interview that he did with Sean Ryan. It's been watched by millions probably already. We don't want immigrants coming here illegally, draining our own resources and being prioritized by putting them above veterans and citizens. Now, this is what Hunter Biden says. Now, this man, we know he has some drug issues. He has money problems. He's been a troubled person, but he kind of just said the parts of the truth is that, to be honest with you, Joe Biden probably was more of a centrist. Joe Biden probably didn't want the things that he did and quote-unquote signed off on. But because he was seen out older and just kowtowed to the Democrat Party and probably had some blackmail on him because, again, all these pardons that were coming to his family, it was probably one of those things he just signed off on it just like all the rest of these dirty people in Washington do. Listen to what else Mr. Biden says here. Hunter Biden reveals that he's nearly $15 million in debt. I've got $15 million in debt and I have no idea what I'm going to do to pay it off. We have no generational wealth. Now, I don't understand how he don't have generational wealth because his father owns like $4 or $5 million mansions, beach homes, and was a politician for 50-something years. And it seems like everybody that goes to Washington gets filthy rich like we talked about. So the question is, what happened to the money? Where is it at, and where was it laundered to? You know, when you hear these kind of stories from anyone coming in and out of Washington, it's like, you know, all of you people have made money off our tax dollars. You know, we talk about the NGOs and all this funding. It's sad that most of the people that are utilizing that and fraudulently doing that, the Somali situation, like for instance, Massachusetts and Minnesota both come out backing Somalis. Now, there's no value to a Somali coming to America, but there is, because guess what? Money. Tax dollars flow into these cities, flow into these counties, flow into these states, and people get filthy rich, including the politician. Look at California. Do your research. All the money that was flowing into these homeless problems and these drug epidemic problems over in California, it hasn't fixed the problem. But for some reason, hundreds of millions and hundreds of billions of dollars have been spread across that state to all these NGO groups, and some of them tied to Gavin Newsom and his family. I mean, like, you tell me that's not corruption at its best? The reason you'll never get to that, though, the reason DOJ will never arrest people for that, the reason the files will probably never come out on Epstein, the reason you're not going to hear all that is because if you really exposed all the dirtiness and all the corruption that's tied to Washington and to our tax-paying losses and laundering, it would literally shut down the whole government, because there would probably be like 4 honest people in the millions that are not. But again, it's kind of like, Mike Pence was one of those that man, for the longest, he was like this conservative juggernaut. And then it's like all of a sudden he spun and became the biggest rhino, the biggest spokesman of just baseless Republican rhino-ness ever. There's probably because there's something someone has on that guy, allegedly. But it's like, you cannot tell me that all these people just work together, live together, play together, launder money together, and they don't have junk on each other. I believe that's why the Epstein thing will never be truly released, because if you actually saw the exposure of blackmail and how these situations work, it would probably blow our mind. It's kind of like what Larry Johnson said, the CIA officer. He said, if you really knew all the laundering situations and all the ties to all these people and truly the swamp is, he said, you would realize that the American people are the ones hung out to dry. They're robbing us blind, along with printing more money to ultimately put on our kids and grandkids, and we get no benefits other than seeing them get filthy rich. Name one person in Washington that's a politician that's not absolutely filthy rich. Name one. They work part-time, literally $200 or $300, usually around 150 to 200 days a year, and they're all filthy rich. Why have we not just come up and said, that's probably because they're doing something wrong, fraudulent, or corrupt? Would we not admit to that? Lindsey Graham's just one of many. The sad thing is no one's going to be investigated, and no one's going to actually find the truth, because there's too many bad players, and there's not enough people willing to stand up and be honest, because they get up there and they're like, man, if I'm seeing all these people get rich and I can get rich too, I came up here to drain the swamp, but to be honest with you, the swamp's looking pretty nice. We may need to go in there and get a little bit too, and then we'll try to clean it up. They get encapsulated, and then usually blackmailed or corrupted, and guess what? They fall just like the rest of them. Sleazy rhinos and Democrats fitting right in the middle, not doing anything for the American people. That's why they will not stand up against their surveillance issues. That's why you'll actually never get the list released truthfully. That's why you're not seeing the DOJ erase people. That's why you saw Dan Bongino step down, because I think he just can't morally, principally stay in Washington and see that things are not getting done. It's sad to say, but that's the ruling party of America, and it's actually to our demise as Americans. I want you to watch this video. This is our last story. This is from Australia. Check this video out right here.
There's a health safety alert tonight for the more than 500,000 Australians taking weight loss drugs like Ozempic and Mounjaro. Live now to health editor Jennifer Beshwati. And Jen, the medicines regulator warns they can have a devastating impact on mental health.
Mitch, the TGA says patients are at risk of suicidal thoughts and behaviour linked to these GLP-1 medications. These are the weight loss and diabetes injections, including Ozempic, Mounjaro and Wegovy. Since September, the regulator has received 72 reports of suicidal thoughts, 4 of attempted suicide and 2 deaths.
It says Australian health officials have issued a safety alert, a safety emergency for more than 500,000 people in Australia that took the weight loss drug of Ozempic, warning that they are devastatingly finding side effects, impacts on mental health, including increased risk of suicidal behaviors and thoughts, and to where they cannot get off of this without being fully dependent on it. It says it is messing with our minds and our health. Now, it has become an explosion here in America where we have just took it hook, line, and sinker. Now we're allowing for all these subsidies to hit it, so government is now subsidizing these things. Again, it's kind of like crypto. For the longest, we did not want BlackRock in our life. So we moved to quote unquote crypto. Oh, we moved to these parallels. We didn't want them touching anything. So now that they have taken it and the banks have ran with it, the government's ran with it, Bitcoin and crypto, everybody's like, oh, I'm glad they come around. And we should be the ones saying how dangerous it is that they're part of this. It shows that this is not a good system for us. Kind of goes with the digital ID, but I digress. So we go back to our government that has caused us poison here, that caused us problems with our food, that now we see that the 2019-2020 situation was a major issue of not testing things, and the foods that we put in our body didn't have good testing, so therefore it's making us sick. So we don't trust the government most of the time with anything like this. And then all of a sudden they give us this new amazing technology that we can eat what we want, do what we want, and then take this shot, and all of a sudden our fat just goes away. An easy button. Why did we not trust this and see the dangers of it to then trust something else and not see the dangers of it? And now we're starting to realize that that stuff is just as dangerous as what we were talking about with this and the stuff that we're ingesting in our food, because the government has 10,000 ingredients instead of 400 like the rest of the world. See, it goes back to this. The stuff, the easy buttons, and all this quote-unquote new technology, all this new innovation, sometimes it may be bad players doing bad things to get filthy rich off the American people that's going to cause harm to hook them to certain things forever. It says for the typical GLP-1 person, they're never going to be off some kind of medication. So it's a perfect ploy for the pharma, because what they're saying is, look, we're going to get them hooked. They're going to want to lose weight. And all of a sudden, they're going to realize they're going to have some mental instability issues. So then they're going to be hooked on this. Then they're going to have depression issues if they get off that, because they're going to start gaining weight again. So then we hook them to that. Then we realize it's causing major psychotic problems. So then we can hook them to this. Then we're realizing they're still eating what they want. So then they're having problems with Alzheimer's and with diabetes. So therefore, we can give them this. You see how that works? Let's go back to what 2020 did. 94% of people that took that now have some kind of autoimmune disorder or some kind of life-altering situation to where they're going to be on meds for the rest of their life. And all of a sudden, we just take this hook, line, and sinker with the GLP-1s because it makes us lose weight. Heartbreaking. Pay attention and don't just trust everybody. The people telling you to go to Washington, they're going to fix it all, they're not. The people telling you they're going to do good things for you, they're probably not. The people that care about you the most are the people that's in your family. And if they're not part of your family, I doubt they're the ones telling you they're going to do so much for you as this one single voter in Washington. Also, what we're realizing is the reason Washington's not helping us is this is the repercussions of it. We're starting to see the fact that these meds and these FDA things and all this stuff is actually not good for us. We see they're getting filthy rich off us in Washington. We see that digital ID and real ID is coming faster and quicker than we've ever thought. And instead of getting more freedom and liberty from either party, we're getting more control and more things that put us in a box. And that is scary. Pay attention to these stories, because this is lifestyle things, guys. Your phone, your meds, your money, all this is lifestyle things. Pay attention. Focus on what is going on. God bless.